Welcome back, WNST, Towson, Baltimore, and Baltimore Positive. It has been the weirdest of times here for anybody who's a sports fan in regard to the Ravens and COVID and every day, if you're a business owner, waiting for the governor, waiting for Johnny O or executive classman or ball, whatever county you're in, about how we're going to do business, how we're going to do industry. And we're all in it together here. And I appreciate that we have some incredible sponsors and people not new to the program, not new to the world, certainly not new to Catonsville if you're over on that side of town and you've ever had a meatball at Franco's or been lucky enough to get one of those pizzas or the bookmaker salad over there. But my man Lou Weinkam's coming back onto the program now. We're going to be talking a lot about Lou to Lou about law and about estate planning and a bunch of things that, quite frankly, Lou, first off, welcome in. How are you? Any leftover pasta you can ship my way, I'm all for it. All right, pal?
You always got that direct line for sure. I'm doing very well. I had a good Thanksgiving, and it was a great weekend.
Well, you know what? Before I even get to the food or even your law practice, you sent me home from Franco's about 3-4 weeks ago with a bookmaker salad that's had an incredible impact on my house. So first things first, my wife doesn't like shrimp, so she doesn't like seafood much of any kind. And I brought the bookmaker up. She even looked at it. She said, man, that's a good-looking salad. And she, pulled the shrimp over. She said, well, the shrimp is not all that shrimpy because it's sort of boiled. So she, had some of the salad. We had some pizza and whatever. And my cat Nala came up and smelled the shrimp and had, that cat seafood moment. So my wife is trying to train the cat to run on a giant hamster wheel, right? She bought this giant wheel here during COVID to get the cat active so she doesn't howl in the middle of the night and she gets all of her energy out, right? So my wife knows a lot about cats. So in order to train the cat, we put some food up. My wife took one little piece of your shrimp at Franco's and we trained the cat, and the cat now is trained because of a bookmaker salad at Franco's. So I just want you to know that at the beginning of our relationship, my wife is very, very appreciative for you sending that bookmaker home with me.
Well, that's another advantage of the shrimp at the bookmaker salad. It's a new item. We can train cats with it. Mostly we're trying to train people to come back to eat it again. But cats are a good one. We'll put that on there.
My wife's like, when are you getting another bookmaker? Nala needs some shrimp. You gave me so much shrimp on the salad that there was extra. So, for you with your practice and in Catonsville, and everybody knows you're there. And I would say I am guilty of this. You came into my life in the aftermath of my mom passing away with issues and not a whole lot of money and not a whole lot of assets and not a whole lot of whatever. But I think people, when it comes to titling, real estate, moms, dads, COVID, fear, having a tough talk about all of this, because I don't think there's anybody that comes to your door without they're having tough conversations when they're talking about what's going to happen with them, their money, their family when they're no longer here. It's like insurance. No one likes to sit around and talk about it because it does have sort of an unhappy ending if you're the one calling the meeting, right?
Well, there's no question, and my dad and I always had a little discussion, and I practiced him for 25 years. And we would go to a festival, Catonsville Arts and Crafts Festival, and hand out brochures, etc. And the same people would come back and pick up the brochure and say, yeah, I'm coming in to see you. And then the next year would go by, the same people, I'm coming in to see you. And it's a common thing for wills and estates because it's not a priority, but people know they need it, but they're never forced to need it until they actually need it. So I always tell a lot of people, if I had a nickel for every person that said they were coming in, I would be retired by now, because there's just, everybody says it, but it's just something that people delay on.
What's the percentage? How many people come to you with extreme pain, knowing all their lives they should have a will and don't, a living will, all that, right? And the pain of I want to sell some people on, don't do what I did. and I could sit here and give you 2.5, 3 years worth of pain and, $8,000 worth, all of that, right? I can give you the pain, but that it's too late, right? And I guess you're the guy that can make this go a lot better with a difficult hour or two visit at some point, right?
That's correct. And one of the things that I try to do is be reasonable and comfortable for people. And I do get a lot of comments that saying, oh, it wasn't as bad as I thought, or it's a lot more simpler than I thought. And that is one of the things that I really try to focus on, is keeping it simple, understandable, and affordable for everybody, to make sure that they can, feel better about doing what they're doing. But percentage of people that come in, there are some people that are petrified. A lot of people think if they are superstitious, think that by drafting a will, they're somehow going to pass away. And so you have that. And then you have the opposite end of the spectrum, where you have a lot of young people who are coming in because they have young kids, and they're like, wow, if something happens to both of us, we don't think that's going to happen or anything. But if it does, we want to be prepared. So you have two of those perspectives. You have somebody who's 85, never did a will, and they have somebody who's 25 with maybe, a 3 and a 4-year-old, and they say, man, I need to get a will to protect, my kids in case something happens to, me and my spouse.
Lou Weinkam's here. Weinkam over at Catonsville. You can find them. Estate planning, estate administration, guardianship, elder law, stuff that I don't understand, but you went to school for a long time ago. The consequences of not doing it. Give me, you've been doing this a long time, examples of some things that can go wrong. And obviously, the minute it happens, if you're not planned for it, it went wrong. It's kind of hard to sort of put it back together sometimes, right?
That's correct. And there's 3 examples that I'll give of estate planning that if you don't do it, causes a problem. The number one is not doing an advanced medical directive. The advanced medical directive is used for you to designate how you'll be treated medically if you cannot make those decisions for yourself. It's last on the list of what people think. They always come in and say, I need a will, I need a will. And I'll talk about that in a second. But if you don't have this medical directive, your children, your spouse don't have any authority to make those decisions for you. The other advantage in doing the document is you name who the person is going to be. So you'll say, for example, hey, if I'm not competent, then person B is going to be my person. And it's there in writing. Everybody knows who it is. Nobody can dispute it. It's clear. The other advantage of the medical directive is you get to fill out all the choices. There's check boxes that you'll say, I do want a feeding tube. I don't want a feeding tube. I do want life support. I don't want life support.
Yeah, just talking about this is a little like, wow, that's kind of a tough chat, Lou, right? I mean, literally, right?
Absolutely.
Did you just ask me if I wanted a feeding tube? You know what I mean? Like, you're like, whoa, hold on. Yeah, right. You don't want to have that conversation twice, right?
Absolutely. And I do try to explain to people when they're having a hard time filling it out. I say, imagine your children are trying to decide this for you. You're having enough difficulties making it yourself. So as the parent, you've always taken care of your kids. You've always made the hard decisions. This is the one last thing that you should do for them to make it a lot easier and relieve them of the burden of having to make the decision, not knowing exactly what your choices are.
No,
and that's one.
Advanced medical directives 1. Go ahead, keep going. I'm writing them down. I have my pen. See, I'm a good student.
That's the most important one because it affects the quality of your life. The other two issues affect money. And, I try to tell people, again, it's only money, but, the quality of life that you receive in the end of your life is one of the most important things that you'll ever have. So number 2 is to do a power of attorney. And the power of attorney designates who's going to manage your finances for you when you can no longer do that. If you don't do that, then you have to go and do a guardianship. And a power of attorney is going to cost, anywhere from maybe $200 to $600, somewhere in that price range. But a guardianship is going to cost over $3,000. So designating who's going to be your guardian is another key point that people need to do so they don't have that extra expense. And if they don't do a power of attorney, the court's going to appoint somebody to be in charge. So while you can say, I want person A to do it, and if person A can't do it, person B will do it. When it goes to a guardianship, the judge might pick an attorney or might pick somebody else who you did not want to manage your affairs. So it gives you control over things while you're alive, but you're unable to handle your own affairs.
Well, your website is, really a great area to people. I guess in the modern era, if they're afraid of you, they can at least go up and get like sort of a little bit of a primer on what's going on, right?
Absolutely. No question about that. And then the third area is the will. And so if you don't have a will and you're married, it's going to go to your spouse and then to your children by the state of Maryland. It's going to divide it up. If you have names on things, that's going to go first before it gets to the will. But if you pass away and you don't have any spouse, it's automatically going to go to your children. The advantage of having the will is you get to designate who's in charge of the will, and you also get to make sure you also eliminate some expenses that the kids would have if there is not a will. So those are the three primary documents: the will, the power of attorney, and directive, that everybody should have. It's part of a package plan that we do. And I recommend it for everybody to clean up their affairs.
I'm going to pull this up for everybody to take a look here. If you're out on the internet, if you watch us, Lou Weinkam has been a friend of ours for a long time, making great food over at Franco's and serving up incredible service to the community over at Catonsville. Estate planning, estate administration, guardianship, elder law, it's all up on the website. And really, like, you click on a tab, you can learn a lot about last wills and testaments. And, I see so much about fill it out online. We'll, $100 and we can have a will or whatever. I've always been one that, like, anytime I do this stuff, I'm always looking for, like I am at Baltimore Positive, looking for the smartest person I can find, ask a million stupid questions, if this, then that, probably the journalist in me a little bit. But I do think there's a little bit of a fear of this in that nobody's ever done it before, probably, when they come to you, right? Like, literally, it's one of those, it's kind of like COVID itself. Nobody has any experience with a plague, right?
Well, there's no doubt about that. And you brought up a good point about the forms. The reason why you would go to see me or an attorney is to put knowledge behind the words. It's not that complicated to create the words. You do have certain language you have to put in there, but that's not the difficult part. The difficult part is making sure that the client understands what they're signing, why they're signing it, and make sure it's signed properly. I get a lot of documents that come in that aren't worth the paper that they're on, because they weren't signed properly, they weren't notarized properly, they weren't witnessed properly.
Yeah, my cousin Vinny was the witness and like that.
Yes.
And we wrote it on a piece of bark back in the 80s or like that. Crazy, right?
That's exactly right.
And then two kids fighting over it, the whole deal, right? Literally.
Absolutely. So that's, when the words are not what you're paying for. What you're paying for is to make sure it's done properly. And I also ask a lot of questions to people. If you just get a form, it just says to fill it out, but I might ask people, well, do the kids have special needs? Are the grandkids involved? We go a step further and always ask additional questions to make sure that when we're doing the documents, we have all the information available for the client.
See, people say they don't like any lawyers. And see, I have a lot of lawyer friends that I like. Lou Weinkam's here, and Weinkam. You can find them. I tell you what, you find them at weinkam.com. You can give them a call. We're going to be telling a lot of the story behind all this, as well as the pizza and the bookmaker and those meatballs and all delicious stuff over there. 410-744-3256. They're over at Catonsville. You'll find them at Baltimore Positive. You'll find Lou out with me talking about food and the community. I want to ask you, in the middle of all of this COVID thing on the backside of Thanksgiving and all the political stuff that's going on in the country, for people during COVID, and has it made your phone ring a little bit more or less, given the fact that people are looking at this and seeing people die all around? Like, literally, we heard how bad this was going to be. I got friends losing parents left and right all over my Facebook thread. We're going into this awful period at this point. Has it changed, maybe even the questions people are asking you when they come in?
I think the volume is probably the same, maybe picked up a little bit more. What's really changed is the way the information is disseminated. And so a lot of people are hesitant to come in, although my office, we only have one client at a time. They go right into the conference room. The conference room has a 6-foot table. That table is so shiny, you can play paper football on it to the national championships. It just slides right off. So we're very, we have everything here. We Lysol, we clean it. We do every procedure there is. Everybody wears masks. But to that point, people are still a little nervous about it. So what I've done recently is people will call or email me. I will then send them a package of information that's kind of the information that's on the website, and just send it to them, say, here's the basics. Read it over, give me a call, send me an email. So we get our first appointment done sometimes now over the phone or through online services. And then what I'll do is I'll send them a second piece of paper saying, here, I need this information, names, addresses, phone numbers, who your people are. And then I'll take that information, open the file, prepare documents, and send it to them again for a review. So we pretty much can get in 1 or 2 appointments online through, phone or emails. And then when we get the final appointment, they'll come in and go over it, and we'll sit at that table. We keep distance. Again, we have a nice, conference room table. That's even has good ventilation with a window and fan, and get them signed. But also some people were hesitant about that back in March. So I developed a way to do it offsite. So if you don't want to come out of your house and I can't get to you, then I'll send you the documents with instructions, how to sign it, who to sign it, get it back. So that's changed a lot because my dad and I never liked to do things without us being the witnesses because we wanted to make sure it was done 100% proper. And I do a lot of work at Charlestown, and I found a lot of firms were just sending information over there without instructions on how to sign things. So I developed a very detailed memorandum on how to get things done. And that's been the biggest change is the offsite and the online presence. And I've learned, I've updated my computer skills and working toward that. And it's been a positive factor for the practice.
Well, I mean, I can say this. I mean, I sort of sought you out and found you through my own issues of pain. And at some point, sleeping better and knowing it's done and knowing it's done right is really sort of the name of the game, because most people aren't going to have to do this one time in their life if they do it right.
That's absolutely correct. And I have a client coming in tomorrow, and she was so nervous when she came in. She's like, she was with her husband, and she didn't want to come and she didn't want to do it. And finally, after the event, she's like, oh, it wasn't that bad, but I'm waiting to see what happens tomorrow when she comes in and actually signs it and see how she reacts.
Man, treating you like a dentist, like it's a root canal here, Lou. That's not right.
It is not right. It is not right for sure. I agree with you.
I want to give you a little space to talk about your family and Franco's and Catonsville. And, my wife has been very charmed by Catonsville. It's maybe it's Moeller or all the Moellers or Uncle Jimmy Moeller or, our friends over at State Fair and Evan and Open and El Guapo and our friends at Fadley's and Demi Hahn came on last week. We surprised her with Coach Billick and some crab cakes out in Ohio. But there is some – I rode the Catonsville parade. Oh, man, I guess it might have been like 2006 or 2007. We had a float. We did our thing and whatever. And I know about all the chairs out there. But there really is something about the community and being a part of it the last couple of years with Don and I doing Baltimore Positive that's even during plague time, it feels like Catonsville's percolating right along.
Well, I totally agree with that. And I think it was becoming a restaurant destination place. And I think it still will be that with some new places that you just mentioned opening up and a few more coming. And I think Franco's is right in the middle of that in a good spot. One of the things that just happened this weekend was I've been we have a holiday house, Santa house for kids to visit. And then my wife and I have been active in that for about 25 years, but we're not having it this year. So
now what is that? Tell me what you do. What would you say?
Well,
Santa holiday house, 25 years. I'm like, what? What have you been doing for 25 years?
A long time ago, Catonsville didn't have a Santa/holiday house. So my wife built it, and this is probably like 25 years ago.
Oh, so you mean like in the mall where Santa sits?
But we have it right next to the Catonsville Firehouse.
Well, I guess the point would be there's no mall there, so where do you put Santa, right?
Correct.
That's the dilemma.
Yes.
You wanted to have a Santa, but you didn't have a place to put a Santa.
That's correct.
Wow,
so we built a house, and we've always been supported by the community for any kind of repairs that are needed. We never charge anything, all done by donations, and kids can come in there and get free pictures. And so we've done that for, I guess, 25 years. And Greg Morgan he invented a tree lighting ceremony at the same time. So this year we couldn't have the tree lighting ceremony because of the COVID. We also couldn't have the Santa house because we didn't feel it was right to do that. But I do want to give a shout out to Greg. He arranged to have Santa go through Catonsville on a fire truck on Saturday. And it was an outstanding event. In fact, my grandkids were so excited. They ran down the street to see him go by and wave because he wasn't coming down their street, but they went to another main thoroughfare and watched. So
now Santa's not a member of the Weinkam family is what you're telling me. No, not this year. Not this year. Okay, just checking.
Correct. That's correct. But it's just a good example of how, Catonsville always continues to come through when things don't work out. There's always an alternate source. And as you were saying this, I just struck to my mind of that's a good story to tell about how all that played out and how it's such a positive impact.
Well, with Don's daughter at the elementary school and granddaughters graduating from high school last year, I think in the spring and throughout the year, we've seen people try to be resourceful, whether it's playing the Masters off, schedule or, even the Ravens moving the football game, although I've given my 2 cents on that. But I think everybody's a little bit more pliable right now as to, over in Dundalk, we always had the train garden, right, over in the firehouse. And everybody's got a tradition about cutting a tree or picking a tree or doing a hayride or whatever the things people do this time of year. Even Thanksgiving last week with families coming over and not coming over, it's all been there. But I would say this: we're 4 weeks out on the rest of the holidays here, and trying to keep everybody safe. Job number one, so we don't have to worry about wills right now, right?
Right. Well, one other quick story about Thanksgiving that we always play a turkey ball at my house, and since none of my kids are on this interview, I can say that I was MVP this year. So let's lock that down.
Well, I mean, there's athletes and athletic supporters in every family, I would say, right?
Yeah, so I'm hoping I'm the first.
We're going to send everybody over to visit with Lou. Lou's going to be visiting with us more frequently. He's 410-744-3256. I'm going to pull the website up here, and I'm definitely going to send everybody over to Franco's to grab those delicious meatballs. Estate administration, estate planning, guardianship. Bottom line is, if you need some stuff that might be a little under your expertise or pay grade in regard to elder law, in regard to wills, if you just need some good advice on some family law, Lou is there to give you a hand. And you got to tell me the Franco story, because there was a point where we thought we were getting out of this plague, and the kid from Catonsville pitching for the Dodgers, and we thought maybe we could get a World Series. Then he wins a World Series. I mean, at some point, I hope there's going to be a celebration with meatballs and appropriate brick pizza for the Collard family over there, because I know how much you guys love sports. And talk about a Catonsville, Baltimore positive story. You got a world champion over in Catonsville.
Yeah, so Adam's a great kid, and I've known him since he was probably 9 or 10 years old, because he was the same age as a couple of my kids and coaching against him and with him in basketball, and his dad, Frank. So we're super excited about Adam, and he is just a super guy. There's a lot of good stories about him that aren't out in the public of what he does.
Well, I plan to tell them all, by the way, because I know all the stuff with him and the Moeller kids is incredible, and I've never told that story appropriately. We're going to track him down when things get slow here during the holidays, and I'm going to have him make me cry. How about that?
Yeah, that's a good one. And he's a low-key guy, and his dad, Frank, and his wife, they're super, and they run, foundation for, disabled baseball, League of Dreams. And and I'm on the board with Frank on that. And that's a fantastic program that is based here in Catonsville, and just does, we could spend a whole interview session on all those topics.
And we did, by the way. We had Frank on last year telling the whole story. And that was before his boy won the World Series. So it's even better now, right?
Well, we had some plans, and we couldn't do it. I wanted to turn Franco's into a Dodgers bar, but because we couldn't, it was too crowded. We couldn't do it. But we had plans to do that, and we had that started last year when they made the playoffs the year before. But yeah, super guy, and we always celebrate, somebody having success. Which Adam, to be honestly, he's already a success as a person. So got a World Series just adds a little icing to the cake, because there's no person that's worked as hard as Adam has to get to the major leagues. And to have that kind of determination is truly amazing.
Man, you say 9 years old, you're coaching against that kid, say that kid's going to be a World Series champion one day. That's kind of, make the hair on the back of your neck stand up, I think, a little bit. But more than that, I want you to know that I actually have a Dodgers hat. So, on my 30-30 tour back in 15, when I went to 30 ballparks in 30 days, I got a Dodgers hat. Janet Marie Smith has worked for the Dodgers. She's getting a ring out of this. She's a Dodger employee, and my dear friend who lives here in Baltimore, up Mount Washington. So she designed Camden Yards and the wall at Fenway. So there's a little Dodger blood running through me here a little bit as well. So if we ever had that Dodger party, I at least already have a hat. So we'll start with that.
You'll be on the guest list for sure.
All right, man. Well, listen, stay clean, stay safe out there. Please keep the oven working over at Franco's. And I have not had a Franco's meatball since before COVID began. So I'm going to be coming over for the bookmaker and a pizza. And by all means, if anyone needs any legal advice on the family side, on the wills, on state planning, just maybe have some questions, Lou Weinkam and our friends at Weinkam and Weinkam. You can find them at 410-744-3256. And we're going to be promoting them, talking about them. You're going to hear some commercials about the specialties and the stuff that they do. So if you don't have a will yet, Lou's going to make sure you have one. Lou, take care and be safe over there in Catonsville. It was great having you on, bud.
Nestor, have a great day and stay safe.
You got it. Lou Weinkam joining us here from over in Catonsville, where life is great in the 21228. Don Moeller would be proud of me doing all this positive Catonsville talk. I'm going to go over to Dundalk. Once this is all over, we'll take the masks off, do some live programming from my homeland, East meets West, Dundalk meets Catonsville. It is WNST.net, AM 1570, Taos in Baltimore. Tell you what, we're selling some ice cream here this month with Taharka. All of our friends and sponsors getting together. These 8-packs come together. It comes to your door. See a little Taharka pink truck there. Perfect for the holidays, whether it's the peppermint bark, the eggnog, or my favorite, the sweet potato crumble. Make sure you check that box. $15.70 off a box of 8, just over $40 comes right to your door. It's going to make your holiday better, I promise you. Our friends at Tahark are coming together. We are. And by the way, if we sell 250 orders by Christmas, they are naming a Taharka flavor after Baltimore Positive. So we definitely got to get to that number. So I'm going to be hitting that all month long. If you're out there, Baltimore Positive is the code. I am Nestor. We are WNST.net, AM 1570. Tass in Baltimore, and we never stop talking Baltimore Positive, even when the Ravens are playing.